So it's that time of the year again where it is time to react to the schedule release and taking a look at all 34 games the Quakes will be playing. And usually, when the schedule is released, there is certainly a huge signs of excitement and certainly hype level for all 24 teams right now in MLS. But it's going to quickly turn into either bitter disappointment or it's going to be happiness, considering the fact that whether you're going to get a very tough schedule or you're going to get a very easy schedule throughout your 34 game. And in the case of the Quakes, they got one of the toughest schedule in the league. I believe the second toughest schedule according to MLSsoccer.com. And as we go through this video, you will probably know why we have a very tough schedule. And what I'm also going to do in terms of the schedule release is that I'm also going to do another video where I'll probably talk about the biggest and the most marquee matchup this season. And I think I'm going to do that on Thursday because tomorrow I'm going to be doing the news of the week like I always do on a Wednesday. But yeah, let's take a look at the schedule that the Quakes are going to be involving in the 2019 season. And after we're done with this list and talk about all the games, I'll just give you an overall reaction to the schedule that we have. But first of all, we start off our season on March 2nd against Montreal. So this is, I think, the third year in a row where we start the season at home in the first game of the season. And just like back in 2017, we are going to be starting our season against Montreal at 7 o'clock. And that season, we went to the playoffs. So hopefully that is a bit of a good omen in terms of what's going to happen this year. And I think this one should be a pretty easy win. And then we play against Minnesota at home at 5 o'clock. So the first two games will be the last two home opener that the Quakes have. And so far, for the first two games, those are very winnable game. But it's going to get very tough, and you're going to see it very quickly. After that, we play against the Red Bulls. That's going to be a 12:30 p.m. local time kickoff, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. And whenever there is a 12:30 kickoff in my time and a 3:30 p.m. Eastern time kickoff, you know what that means. That means it's going to be probably on Univision or Unimas, as that's pretty much the time slot when they usually do their games at that time. And also, these matches are now going to be on Twitter because of the fact that it's on Univision and Unimas. And then the following week, we got another 12:30 kickoff. This time, we're going to be playing against LAFC. Now, this match, I actually might be not able to attend this match, and I might be missing this match, mainly because I already plan to go down to San Diego to watch the San Francisco Giants take on the Padres, and unfortunately during that time it kind of comes in a little bit of a conflict with this game where it's taking place on March 30th, and the opening weekend of the MLB season is right around that time also. So yeah, this game I probably will not be able to attend it, which really sucks because we're playing against LAFC, and I want revenge from what happened last season. But most likely I might not be able to attend this game, which means that it will be a season where I will not be able to attend all the home games this season. And especially heading into the July or the June month, into the summer month, this is where I'm also a little bit concerned about some of these games that I'm not able to attend because I have to do an internship in the summer months, and I don't know if I can, I need to make sure that I have all the Saturday slot open for me so I can still go to the game and don't have to work in an internship and it comes in conflict with the games. But I know for sure that this is probably the game that I am going to miss on March 30th against LAFC at 12:30 p.m. But I'll still watch it on TV, or I'll still watch it on Twitter, as this game is also going to be on Unimas. There's actually going to be 9 games this season that is going to be televised on Unimas, and all 9 of those games are basically our national televised games. So it's kind of interesting. The fact that all our games are televised on Unimas or Univision or on Twitter, but I guess maybe because of the fact that we have Almeida and the fact that we have a pretty Hispanic kind of roster, it's more pleasing to the Spanish audience. So that's why we're getting so many national televised game on Unimas rather than you would get on FS1 or ESPN. And then after that, we play against the Timbers. That's going to be another 5 o'clock kickoff. So we have a lot more day games this season than last season, but most of the day games is going to be in the first half of the season. And then after that, we play against Houston at 12 o'clock my time, 2 o'clock p.m. Central Time, and I believe this is another game that's going to be on Univision and Unimas, and it's going to be on Twitter. And then we, of course, will be playing against SKC at 7 o'clock. So basically, from what you already see, is that these first 5 or 7 games, 5 of the 7 games that we have in the start of the season is going to be at home. And, you know, this is something definitely different from previous year, where from the previous year we usually don't have a lot of home games in the first half of the season, and it's the second half of the season where we're going to get the home games, which I like that better, because at least in the second half of the season, when we're heading to the home stretch and when we're heading to the make or break time of teams that is going to be on the bubbles of going to the playoffs, we still have those home games to play. This season, we don't have that luxury, which is why this season we got to start out very good. This has been a problem for the Quakes for the past couple of years, where they always tends to start off very slow. We cannot afford to do this year. And then after the Sporting KC game, we got Seattle after that. That game is going to be a 7:30 kickoff time, and you notice how doing this game to right about, I would say, maybe right around the FC Cincinnati game in May 4th, that is a very tough schedule. I mean, we have a very tough April where we have to play against a team that were in the MLS Cup last year, and we have to play against a team that destroyed us 5-1 at home, and then we also have to play a team that we tend to do not do very well. That is the Seattle Sounder. Although we do get to play a team that we were one of the 2 teams that we were able to beat, which is FC Dallas. I mean, it feels like I feel like the Quakes tried their hardest to petition the league this season to just only play Minnesota and FC Dallas, because those are the only 2 teams that we beat last season, and we did a double against both of them. But now, unfortunately, we have to play every single team in the league at least once. And then after that, like I said, we play against FC Cincinnati. This is definitely a game that I am going to be circling on my calendar, because I am very excited to see this expansion team and see what they're going to bring to the table. And then we go on the road once again. We're playing against New England. And then after that, we return home and we are playing against Chicago. So this is part of the schedule where we're going to be at home, away, kind of like an imbalance kind of schedule that we are in, which is a little bit disappointing. And also, by the way, I didn't mention this, and I probably should have. The Seattle game is going to be a Wednesday game. So that's the first Wednesday game that we're going to get. And this year, obviously, with the schedule being much shorter than previous year, and that it's going to be more congested than previous year, there's going to be more Wednesday game. But from what I have already looked at the schedule, it looks like we're going to only be having 2 home games this season that is going to be on Wednesday, which is good for the fans, because, Wednesday game is always the hardest to try to attend, because it is a work day and it's really hard to get off work and then go to the stadium and have to battle the traffic to get to the stadium on time to watch the game. So yeah, and it's also, a lot of people don't go to Wednesday game because it's a school day, and Wednesday game is usually the least attending games, and the one where there's always many empty seats at Avaya Stadium whenever it's a midweek game. And then after the New England game, we play against Chicago. That's another 12:30 kickoff, which means that that's going to be on Univision. And then we play against TFC on the road. So we basically have for these 4 weeks, we're basically going to be at home, and then we're going to be going to the East Coast, and then we're going to be back home and going to the East Coast. Yeah, thanks, MLS. You could have literally just put us with New England and TFC on a back-to-back week, and you don't even need to, like, they basically are toying with us in terms of us have to traveling on the road and then traveling back at home and then have to travel on the road again when we could have just done it in consecutive weeks. And then after the Chicago game, we got TFC on the road, and then after that, we're going to be on the road again, which we're going to be playing against DC United. So this is what I was hoping that they would do with them putting us with New England, TFC, or DC United in all three of the game, because that's just going to be part of the East Coast trip. And you see this happen in other leagues too, like the NHL or the NBA or even the MLB, where whenever a team goes on the road, they don't have a schedule where they're going to be go on the road to the East Coast and then come back home for a game or even for a series and then go back onto the road in the East Coast again. You know, it's not very efficient, and it also costs more in terms of traveling fees too. So yeah, I just don't know why the league obviously decided to do that. But after the DC United game, we got FC Dallas again, and once again, it's a 12:30 kickoff. So we're gonna be getting, I think, 12:30 kickoff this year. And I know there are some people that are kind of complaining about the fact that it's such an early start and that you have to get to the stadium at 10 in the morning or even 11 in the morning. But it is the way it is, and if you want to be on national televisions, sometimes you do have to get up a little bit earlier. Although, if you want to be on the main event or the Super Sunday, which unfortunately the Quakes, once again, are not part of it until probably the later part of the season, which does not count because usually in the last 2 weeks, the games are always going to be on Sunday. Yeah, those games are going to be kicked off a little bit later in the afternoon, not like bright and early in the afternoon on a Saturday. But then after that, we get a 18-day break before we play against Houston at home at 7:30. And this is also part of a free game homestand, which is the longest homestand that we're going to get this season. I'm guessing this 18-day break is probably for the Gold Cup, because the Gold Cup does start on June 15 and it lasts to July. So I'm guessing that is probably part of the break. Other than that, I have no idea why we have such a long stretch between games that we are not going to have. We're not going to have like a game. I mean, I know the Women's World Cup is going to be this year, but this is MLS. This is not a women's league, okay? So I other than the fact that they're doing this because of the Gold Cup, I have no clue why they decided to have a long stretch of games without long stretch of days without a single game. But after the Houston game, we have to once again get ready for the Cali Clasico, the annual Cali Clasico at Stanford Stadium, where we're going to be playing against the Galaxy at 7 p.m. Now, they said that this game, some of the site said that this game is going to kick off at 8 o'clock, and most of the times that I basically put on this board is from the Quakes website, and I know on MLSsoccer.com they had some very wacky kind of kickoff time that I think they'll probably sort it out. I mean, there was like one game when we have to go on the road against Vancouver, and that kickoff time was 10 o'clock p.m. Pacific time. And we also had games that was kicking off at 8:30, which, yeah, that doesn't sound right. I mean, I don't think we ever had a game that kicks off later than 8 o'clock. And pretty much every MLS regular season game, they're trying their best to not kick off very late because they want to be family friendly and they want to make sure all games end before 10 o'clock. It's not because of a curfew like what the Premier League has, where all games have to kick off no later than 8 o'clock, and at the very max they cannot kick off later than 9 o'clock because of the 11 p.m. curfew that the UK has with their sporting event. But it's because the league want to be a little bit more family friendly. And you saw when the league decided to do a late kickoff, and it was that Sporting KC versus RSL game where it was a late kickoff. It kicked off at 8:45. You saw how many fans complained about it. Although that one, I think it was on a weekday, so I guess maybe that's puts the reason why fans kind of complain because of a late kickoff. But yeah, we'll see if this is going to be a 7 o'clock kickoff or an 8 o'clock kickoff. Most likely it's going to be a 7 o'clock kickoff because the last couple of years when the Cali Clasico is at Stamford, it kicks off at 7 p.m. And this is definitely a game that I always circle on the calendar. This is a game that I definitely need to go. Even if I have to work for an internship or something like that, I'm definitely going to call in sick for this because I cannot miss this game. Like, this is a game that is a game that if you're a Quakes fan and you're a true Quakes fan, you cannot miss the biggest game. And pretty much this is our version of the MLS Cup with 50,000 people sitting in front of a game that is pretty much, it means a lot to the Quakes, and it definitely means a lot to the players too. So yeah, and then after that, we will be going on the road on a Wednesday, and we're playing against Minnesota at 8 o'clock Central Time, which is 6 o'clock our time. And then we return home to play against RSL at 7:30 before going on the road to play the second edition of the Cali Clasico at 8 p.m. Pacific Time to play against the Galaxy. Now, this is where I think if there's one thing that I really hate about this schedule, this is probably the part of the schedule where I really hate about, because I don't get why in the world did we have to, like, between this game in the Cali Clasico against the Galaxy at Stamford Stadium to the RSL game, why in the world do we have to go on the road on a midweek, and we have to go on a Midwest trip in the middle of the week, and then we have to go back at home the very next week? I mean, couldn't you basically put us in 4 straight home games against RSL after the Galaxy game, and then just put us into a 3 straight road game like that? I mean, it just, I don't honestly understand why they decide to do this. I really wish we should have played RSL on July 3rd on that Wednesday and switch that Minnesota date to July 6th, because then we don't really have to go on the road and then quickly have to come back at home, and that's going to add a little bit more fatigue to our team whenever we have to travel on the road and come back in a very short span of time. So again, this just adds to another factor of why I do not like this schedule and why this is one of the toughest schedule in the league, because there's just very weird kind of traveling pattern where we have to go on the road on one game and then come back home on the next, even in a midweek kind of type of scenario. But like I said, we're going to be back at home and we're playing against RSL at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. And then we go back on the road to play against the Galaxy. Now, this game is going to be on a Friday, and again, depending on if I can call in sick for my internship thing that I'm going to do, and I'm planning to do my internship on a Monday to Wednesday. I'm trying my best to not do it on a Sunday, but if I can't call in sick for this, then I can't go to this one. And it sucks the fact that I can't go to this one because I really want to go again. I mean, last time I definitely did not have a good time there. I mean, you know, we lost that game and it was definitely not a fun feelings to have. But it's one of those away days where I can definitely afford to go, and it's not that far away from where I live. Well, having saying that, it's 400 miles down south, but it's the closest team that we have in MLS, and certainly I think that I really, if there is an opportunity for me to go down to LA to see the Galaxy or see the Galaxy play the Quakes in a Cali Clasico, then I would definitely do so. I definitely want to go to this one, but most likely that is not going to be the case. And I really want to do more than one away day this year, but because of the fact that most of the away games when we play against West Coast opponent are in the midweek, in the midweek, that's just another example of the many kind of kind of ridiculous thing MLS is trying to throw at us this season, and how once again they decided to mistreat Quakes fans and not allowing us to go on a away day because it's in the middle of the week. That is why that I think away days this season might be coming into a halt. But after the Galaxy game, we're going to be playing against Vancouver on the road, and then we return home to play against Colorado. That's going to be a 7 o'clock kickoff time. And then after that, we play against Columbus at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time before we go on the road again to play against the Rapids. And I think besides us playing against the Timbers on a Sunday, this is the only West Coast opponent that we are going to be playing that is on the weekend, and it's not on a Monday or a Tuesday or a Wednesday or even on a Friday. So yeah, and I don't know if I want to go to this one because, going to Denver is not cheap to fly to Denver, and the fact that the stadium is like nowhere near Denver, it's going to be really hard to actually get to the stadium. So I don't know, I might think about this one. And also, since August is the month where I'm started to maybe plan to go to Minneapolis to go to that new stadium that Minnesota has, which is Allianz Field, and I think August 17th is probably the date that I'm gonna be going to it because the Quakes are going to be on the road, and that is a good time for me to travel away to go to that stadium. I don't know, should I be going away again on August 10th? I mean, I don't have a lot of money, okay, and I'm not going to spend so much money on some of these away day experience. And yeah, but after that we got Sporting KC, like I said, on the road. That's going to be a 7:30 p.m. kickoff time. And then we got LAFC on a midweek, and this is actually part of Heineken rivalry week. So basically MLS decided that, the Cali Classico, that is pretty much just, it's in the past. Let's actually try to create another Cali Classico by playing the other LA team, which is LAFC. And LAFC, I don't know if this is true, but they are kind of trying to make us into a rival. Like, they're trying their best to really kind of hate us with what they did in last season, where they actually put like a tifo that says death from above, and there's like that falcon that they release in the pregame show, and it basically grabbed a Smurf hat or a Smurf head with him, and that, of course, the Smurf head is our mascot, which is Q. But I don't know if this is a good way to say that, hey, we're going to really hate you because we're basically like, we're going to try to create another Cali Classico, but only the second version. I mean, I don't really hate LAFC as much as what some Quakes fan would do, and I'm pretty sure LAFC fan, if you can let me know in the comments below, is it true, the fact that the fans there really want to start a rivalry with us? I mean, in some ways, the first two matchup has been pretty decent. I mean, the first matchup, that was an insane kind of matchup and in a very heartbreaking kind of way. And then the second matchup was, kind of okay. But, let me know, LAFC fan, that you are watching this video, that are you really trying to make a Cali Classico DOS by trying to put that tifo in, or is it just because we don't have anything else to do? So might as well just decided that this is the day where we're gonna create a tifo to try to kind of show off with our opponent and trying to create a rivalry with our opponent. And then after the LAFC game on Wednesday, and because this game is on a Wednesday, the fact that I can't travel to this game because that is actually the first day of my fall semester for my last year in college, so unfortunately I can't attend that one. And then on a Saturday, we're going to be playing against Vancouver before playing against Orlando City. The Vancouver game is going to be a 7 o'clock kickoff, while the Orlando City game is going to be a 7:30 p.m. Pacific kickoff. And then heading into September, where I even tweeted out before the schedule released that please do not have another murderous row kind of way with the September schedule like last season, where we had to play some of the toughest team in September. Well, unfortunately, MLS clearly didn't listen to me, and certainly the football gods did not really show me any mercy or whatsoever, and they decided to slap us with probably the hardest month of schedule that we will have all season long. And we start off by playing against RSL on September 11th at 7:30, and then after that we have to go on the road on a short rest to NYCFC. So we have to fly all the way to the East Coast on a short rest. That obviously does not do us any favor. And then after that we have to play against Atlanta on the road, which definitely does not do us any favor, considering the fact that Atlanta is unbeatable at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And then before that, we return home for a midweek game. We have to travel all the way across the other side of the country to return home to play against Philly at 8 o'clock. And then after that, we have to have another short week. We're playing against Seattle at home before finish the season. And this is actually wrong. This is not versus, this is at. We finish the season on the road against the Timbers, a team that we have never beat them on the road throughout the entire 8 or 9 year history that we play against the Timbers on the road. So yeah, thanks a lot, MLS. Thanks a lot for putting the toughest stretch and the stretch where we're probably not going to get a lot of points in September, and probably that will be the difference of us missing the playoffs. And also, this just is another example of how we have the second toughest schedule. So overall, when you look at this schedule, obviously I know I've been spending a lot of time complaining more than actually being kind of happy with this schedule. I mean, the only happy thing I would say about our schedule is that there's not going to be a lot of midweek home games, which will really help the fans, because one of the biggest thing we were worried about this season is that since there's going to be more midweek games, that means that there's going to be more time where we have to go to game and it's in the middle of the week, and that usually is not very kind of convenient, and that we like to have games on the weekends rather than in the middle of the week. But it turns out we only have 2 games this season at home that is in a midweek, which is the same amount we had last season. But the bad news is, even with the fan experience, the big problem with less home game in the midweek is that means there's going to be more when you're going away. And I think we have like 6 or 5 midweek games this season, which means that there's going to be like 4 or 3 of them that is going to be on the road, and some of them we have to go all the way across the other side of the country to play those midweek games. Yeah, that just adds to one of the bad thing about our schedule. And also the fact that I really think if we're going to make the playoffs, and I pretty much said this last season, I'm going to say it again with this season because of the tough September schedule, we got to wrap clinch our playoff spot very early on. Like, if we do not clinch our playoff spot very early on before heading into September or getting very close to clinching it, then we have a big problem. Like, if we're still on the outside in, looking in, heading into September, we're not making the playoffs because of just the tough schedule, and I just don't see it. Like, I think maybe RSL might be a game that we could maybe pick up points. I mean, last season we didn't lose to RSL, and we actually got a rare point away at RSL. But against NYCFC on the road, and it's a short week too, and then play against Atlanta on the road, and then coming back again from the East Coast and play a midweek game at home. Yeah, that is a really, really tough schedule, and that is usually the month where we're not going to get a lot of points, and it also going to hurt us heading into the playoffs too if we do make the playoffs, because if we lose so many of these games when we head to the playoffs, we're going to be pretty cold. And when you head to the playoffs in a kind of a cold streak, that is not a recipe for success to try to go deep into the playoffs. And I'm not saying that this team needs to go deep into the playoffs. I mean, my expectation for this team is pretty much the same expectation that I had when Jesse Forinelli took over this team back in 2017, where if we can just get to the playoffs, then I will be very happy. I mean, I know I kind of lower a little bit more expectation than last season, where it's not just that we need to get to the playoffs, we need to get pretty deep into the playoffs. I think this season, knowing the squad that we have, and I know even with some of our signings this season, and also looking at how tough the schedule is this season, I think I'll be happy. I'll be content if we actually get to the playoffs. And it would be an extra bonus if they can go very deep into the playoffs, because this squad is still really shaky and there's so many unknown heading to this season. I know a lot of people are optimistic and hype up about this, but I was kind of that kind of guy last season, of how I was optimistic that things was going to be different with all these signings that we have, and look what happened last season. It was a total disaster. So until we started to do well, and until in the beginning of the season when we are winning games and really look like a team that could be competing in this league and go into the playoffs, then I would believe that the Quakes are back and that the Quakes have show forward progress that I was really hoping this team would make from last season. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of all these games? And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.